Hey everyone, hope you're having a great week. It's time to preview round 19 of the 2025 NRL season. Plus, we're going to go through State of Origin game 3. I'm going to go through some of the betting trends for that game, who I think is going to win, why, how I'm approaching betting on it, and the same for all the NRL games coming up this weekend. Quickly going back to round number 18 before we get into this week's games though. What happened last week? There was only the 5 games. And ultimately, it ended up being a really close round. 4 of the 5 games were decided by 6 or less points. The Broncos coming back from 18-0 down to beat the Bulldogs 22-18. The number one defensive side conceding 22 points in the final 20 minutes of that game. Raiders were able to hold on and beat the Dragons 28-24 in a game early on Saturday that looked like it was becoming an almost replay of the Friday night game. Storm beat the Cowboys 26-20 in a fairly unconvincing win. Tigers, big upset, beating the Roosters 30 points to 28. They were the biggest underdog to win on the round. And then the Seagulls beating the Rabbitohs 30 points to 12. The away teams won and covered 3 of the 5 games on the season, though home teams are 77-56 overall against the spread. Favorites won 3 of the 5 games. The Broncos winning as an underdog against the Bulldogs, and the Tigers winning as the underdog against the Roosters. Underdogs covered the spread in 4 of the 5 games. Manly on Sunday against the Rabbitohs were the only favourite to win the game and actually cover the spread as well. This season, underdogs are 75-58 against the spread. So it's still continuing. Home teams against the spread and underdogs against the spread is the hugely profitable way to go. From a total perspective, 3 games went under, 2 went over. On the season, 72 games have gone under. 61 games have gone over the closing total points line. All that data for every team, plus the different situational factors, how they perform in home and away, as a favorite, underdog, all the different situations, all that information and their statistics for those situations is all in the NRL Bet Finders, which you can access through the link in the description. Now, looking ahead to round number 19, we'll start with these games, then we'll come back to the State of Origin, starting with the Friday night game, Sharks versus Dolphins. This weekend, we have 7 games total, 1 on the Friday night, 3 on the Saturday, 3 on the Sunday. Sharks are favourites here. They're $1.65 minus 3.5, and the total is 46.5. Both these teams coming into this off the bye, so neither having a game last week. Prior to their bye, the Dolphins beat the Rabbitohs at home 50 points to 28, and the Sharks lost to the Melbourne Storm down in Melbourne 30 points to 6. These teams have only met twice previously, once last season and then once in 2023. Last time they met, the Dolphins won 30-28 as $3.30 underdogs. The Sharks have been big favorites around the $1.30 mark in both previous meetings. This time around, they're basically double that, if not a little bit more. And this is their second time playing the Dolphins at home. Last time they met, it was at the Sharks' home ground, which is where this game will be played. And the Dolphins got out to a 22-0 lead in the first 24 minutes of that game. They scored 4 tries right off the bat. Then the Sharks came back. They scored 2 quick tries prior to halftime. That brought the scoreline back to 22-12. Sharks scored twice straight after halftime and put themselves in front in that game. Then Hamiso Tabuai scored, which put the Dolphins back in front. Plus, there was a penalty goal in there as well. Then, in the final minute of the game, the Sharks spread it to the right side, and Sione Katoa was able to dive over in the corner. Nico Hines had a conversion from the sideline to tie the game and send it to Golden Point. However, he missed it out to the right. So the Dolphins were able to get the win by 2 points. They had 54% possession in that game and completed at 92% compared to the Sharks only completing at 72%. Really big difference there in the terms of the possession and completion rates in particular for the two teams. The Sharks made 11 errors in that game in that 2-point loss, whereas the Dolphins only made 2. It's really hard to see that happening again in this game. Sharks led the line breaks 6-4, and the Sharks only had 2 attacking kicks in this game compared to the Dolphins having 11. Penalties were tied at 6 all. Now, looking at those stats from the game, you would expect the Dolphins to have won that game by double digits, to be fair, but they only managed to win by 2 points, and a lot of their scoring, so 22 of their 30 points, all came in the first 20 or so minutes of the game. Off of that performance, now going into this year, we need to analyze these teams' form lines coming into the game. As I said, both of them are off the bye, but the Sharks have lost 4 of their last 5 games, including 3 losses by at least 24 points. The Dolphins are on the exact flip side of that, having won and covered 4 of their past 5, and all 4 of those wins have been by at least 22 points. With that in mind, this is a game I think is really important for both teams based on where they're sitting on the ladder. Neither team will want to drop this game and should be going at it 100%. With the Sharks' home field advantage, I agree they should be slight favorites. I don't know if there's a ton of value in the $1.65. I think that's a little bit too short and the market could be a little bit closer, particularly when you look at the stats for the two teams. Dolphins are clearly the better attacking side and also defensive side. However, they need to be able to do it on the road. That's going to be the key factor for them to be able to beat the Sharks here. The last time they played at home, 50-28 over the Rabbitohs. Then against the Knights, they were over in Perth and lost to Newcastle. They beat the Cowboys up in Townsville in dominant fashion, but then 56-6 against the Dragons. Good win against the Bulldogs in the wet though, and we know the Bulldogs don't play well in the rain. If I was to tip a side in this game, I would go with Cronulla just with the home field advantage, even though the Dolphins have won both meetings. I think the Sharks should have lost that game last season by a lot more. If you go off current form, it looks clearly like the Dolphins, but I just think this season, current form really hasn't mattered a great deal, and it's just about the side that turns up on the nights. I'm really paying attention to the motivation factors going to this game. The Sharks will want to win in front of their home fans. And the Dolphins have a home game coming up next Thursday night against the Cowboys, which is a bit of a marquee matchup for them, particularly at home. And I think they may just have one eye looking ahead to that game as well. So, like the Sharks, in a really close game here. The total for this game is 46.5. Both meetings head-to-head have gone over the total. The Sharks, 5 of their last 6 games have gone over the total, and Dolphins, 4 of their last 5 games have gone over the total. Expect we'll see points in this game. Sharks do need to defend better than they have been recently, otherwise that's definitely going to cost them here. So I'd lean towards the over as well from a total perspective. The first game on Saturday is Newcastle against Melbourne. The Storm are favourites, $1.25, minus 12.5, and the total is 46.5 as well for this game. Melbourne have won 12 of the past 14 head-to-head against Newcastle, but the Knights have won 2 of the past 3, including the past 2 against Melbourne at home. The latest of those was round 3 last year, where the Knights won 14-12, and back round 21, 2023, Newcastle won 26-18. Last time these sides met was in Melbourne last season in round 14, and the Storm won 36-28. The Storm scored 3 tries to 2 in the first half. 2 of those, though, were right on halftime, the 38th and 39th minute mark. They led 18-12 into the break with those 2 late tries. Then Melbourne scored 3 of the first 4 tries in the second half. That gave them a 34-16 lead with 19 minutes to go, and they were able to hold on to win by 8 points. Storm had 52% possession. Both teams completed really well in the mid-80s. Storm led the line breaks 7-6 and the tackle breaks 43-36. And Melbourne had 5 set restarts to 0 in that game. Off the way these teams are playing this season, Melbourne should go up there and win this game. But there is angles to find Newcastle in this game. Firstly, Melbourne, it's back-to-back away games for them. They played up in Townsville on Saturday, now playing in Newcastle this week. They just have the 1 home game following this and then 2 more games on the road against the Roosters and Parramatta. And Newcastle come into this off the bye. So they're a lot better positioned in terms of going into this game to be able to challenge Melbourne. Just whether they're going to be able to find enough points is the big question mark. Melbourne are the number 1 attacking side and number 2 defensive side right now going into this game. Newcastle are averaging the least points of any team, just 14.8. With that in mind, they're going to have to turn this into a real defensive grind to be able to beat the Storm. And the Storm improving as this season progresses. They've won 5 straight, and they'll likely start heavy favorites in the next 4 games as well. So they're just going to continue on building this momentum. Really can't see a way the Knights find enough points to beat them here. Last season, Newcastle scored 28 against them down in Melbourne, but the Knights this season, their highest score overall on the year is 30 points, which was against the Rabbitohs back in round number 9. They're going to need a score in the high 20s to at least give themselves a chance, which I don't think they're going to be able to do against this Storm defense, which, whilst they gave up 20 last week against the Cowboys, have definitely been limiting opponents, particularly those with poor attacks as well. So like the Storm to win. I think they'll get over the line. Don't want to lay 12.5 points, as I think they'll just do enough to win this game, particularly with players backing up from State of Origin. The total at 46.5. 3 of the past 5 head-to-head have gone over. But looking at these teams' recent form, the Storm, their last 2 games have gone under, and the Knights on the season have been a massive underside. Their last 3 going under, and 14 of 16 games overall have gone under the total. Lean right now towards the under. Does definitely depend on like the Storm scoring. For it to go over, it's going to come down to Melbourne running in 30 to 36 of these points at least. So right now, lean towards the under. Both teams top 3 defenses on the season, and those metrics hold up across a number of stats, but expect the Storm to win, lean unders, and likely the Storm lead this game at halftime as well. They've only trailed at halftime in 1 game this season. The following game is the Dragons against the Roosters, and the Sydney Roosters are favourites $1.54 minus 4.5, and the total is 48.5. Important game this for both sides. The Dragons sit in 11th, Roosters sit in 9th right now, coming off a loss against the West Tigers last week. They were blown off the park early. They tried to come back and steal it, but just couldn't quite get there. That broke a 2-game winning streak and were off the bye. The Roosters and the Dragons, they lost to the Raiders 28-24 on the Saturday night. So they've got 1 extra day's rest going into this game. The Roosters have won 5 of the past 6 against the Dragons, and they've won the past 3, each of them by at least 28 points. Last time they met was round 8 this season. It was a Sydney Roosters home game, and they scored 3 tries to 1 in the first half and led 20-6 at the break. Both teams scored a try early in the second half, whilst Sandon Smith was sin bin for the Roosters. And then the Sydney Roosters scored 2 tries in the final 4 minutes, which pushed the margin out to 28 points. The Roosters had 55% possession in that game, completed at 81%, the Dragons at 73%. Roosters had an extra 530 metres gained, and the Dragons had less than 400 metres post-contact. Roosters led the line breaks 10-4. Even though the Dragons only missed 27 tackles, they still conceded 10 line breaks. Roosters made 2 more errors, 13-11, and the Roosters won the penalty count 6-3. This statistically and historically between these 2 teams, the Roosters should be winning. But there's a chance if they don't fully turn up, the Dragons could steal this. They're a team that can definitely hang around in games and challenge when teams give them opportunities and don't put them away, which the Roosters have proven to kind of be a team to do that in a few games this season. 2-point loss against the Tigers. They just got over the Knights a few weeks ago. 2-point loss against the Raiders. 4-point loss against the Bulldogs. Now, Raiders, Bulldogs, they're definitely better teams than the Dragons. But right now, St. George are exceeding market expectations. They've covered the spread in 6 of their last 7 games, and the Roosters have failed to cover in 3 of their past 4 games. So as much as I think the Roosters likely win this game, I think it could be closer. Potentially look at try bets in this game, or Roosters by 1-12. They do have statistically the better attack and also the slightly better defense, but there's not a great deal between them defensively. If history repeats of how they met earlier on in the season at Allianz, then Roosters will win this game. But last time they met at Jubilee Stadium was round 12, 2023, and the Dragons won that game 24-22. So there's a chance this game does come down to the wire a bit. I tip Roosters to win, but I think it'll be close. The past 6 head-to-head have gone over. The total is 48.5. I make a fair total in this game, 47.5, but I am definitely leaning towards the overs. The Dragons, they've had 4 straight games go over the total, and the Roosters, 4 of their past 5 have gone over, and 7 of their last 9 have gone over if you go all the way back to round 7. So there are some strong trends pushing you towards the overs, and there being points in this game, which I definitely think there will be. Neither side is super strong defensively. They're both in the bottom half of the competition and in the top half in attacking numbers, so it sets up well to be a high-scoring game. The final game on Saturday night is the Cowboys at home against the Bulldogs, who are $1.42 favourites and -7.5. The total is 48.5. Cowboys have won 3 of the past 4 versus the Bulldogs and covered the spread in 7 of the past 8. And last time they met was round 27 last season, and North Queensland won that game 44 points to 6. They're sitting in 12th spot on the ladder right now. Definitely a crucial game for them if their season hasn't already gotten quite away from them. That matchup last season, the Cowboys scored 3 tries to 0 in the first half, led 20-0 at halftime, and went on with it, scoring 4-1 tries in the second half. So it's a total of 7 tries to 1 in that 44-6 win. Cowboys had 56% possession, completed at 80%. Bulldogs only completed at 63%. Cowboys had 1,949 meters gained. The Bulldogs just under 1,300. Cowboys 8-2 line breaks, 12-3 attacking kicks. And Bulldogs had to make 125 more tackles with that differential in possession. Bulldogs led the error count 15-13. Bulldogs now lost 2 in a row since their bye against the Broncos and Panthers. Did lead at halftime in both of those games as well. And the Cowboys, they're not really traveling much better. They've lost 4 of the last 5 games. And since round 7, when the Cowboys had their first bye of the season, they've only won 3 games. They beat the Titans twice, who were last on the ladder, and their other win was a 4-point win at home against the West Tigers. Now, Bulldogs, as much as they threw the game away last week against the Broncos by not playing the full 80 minutes, I think they'll be right on for this game. I really can't see them dropping this up in Townsville. The matchups in Townsville have had a history of being close. The last 4 meetings up there between the Cowboys and Bulldogs have all been decided by 12 points or less. So based on that, that says it should be a close game, but I think the Bulldogs will really want to make a statement here. Back-to-back losses for the first time this season, and now this game against the Cowboys, I think they'll be well and truly on. They've played 2 of the most informed teams in the comp right now in the Broncos and Panthers since their bye, and I think they can get back on track with a win here. So expect a dominant win by the Bulldogs. They've had 8 days to prepare for this match as well, so are well suited. As much as the Cowboys put up a fight against Melbourne last week, the Storm, who were severely undermanned, were still that little bit too good. Both teams, Cowboys were undermanned in that game as well. However, I just don't think it's going to make a big enough difference. I think they're going to struggle to find enough points here against this Bulldogs side. Cowboys defensively still ranked second last in the competition, and Bulldogs, who are a fairly good first half team when they want to be, can get the jump on them here and establish a lead early and then go on with it. Cowboys still ranked well and truly in the bottom half in points for 20 last week against the Storm, 30 against the Titans, but a number of low-scoring games at 14 or less prior to that. I think they're going to struggle to score against this Bulldogs defense, who has done pretty well for the most part at limiting good teams, and they should be able to do that against the Cowboys. So like the Bulldogs to win. The total is 48.5 for this game, which on first look I do think is a little bit high. The numbers tell me it should be about 45.5 point total. This current total tells me the bookmakers are expecting the Bulldogs to score pretty freely in this game. So that kind of strengthens the play on the Bulldogs because the Cowboys aren't going to find enough points. So I'd like the Cowboys team total going under here as probably a stronger play instead of a full game total under. And the Bulldogs, their last 3 games have all gone under the total. Cowboys have been trending the opposite direction. 8 of their past 10 head-to-head have been going over, largely due to the fact of the amount of points they've been conceding, though. So definitely keep that in mind. So like the Bulldogs to win, Cowboys to struggle, and their team total to go under. The first game on Sunday is the Warriors versus West Tigers. The New Zealand Warriors are $1.33 favourites, -9.5, so just under double-digit handicap, and the total is 46.5. The Warriors have a very, very good record against the Tigers. They've won the past 8 straight against them, and they've won the last 2 at home by at least 12 points. Last time they met was round 4 this season. The Warriors won that game 26 points to 24. That was at the Tigers' home game. It was very close. Both teams scored 2 tries in the first half. It was 12 all at halftime. Then they both scored 2 tries in the second half. But Luke Metcalf kicked a penalty goal in the 72nd minute, and the Warriors won by 2 points. That game, the Warriors had 52% possession, completed 83%, Tigers at 80%, but the Warriors were plus 500 meters gained, plus 130 post-contact meters. They had 4-3 line breaks, and the Tigers missed 42 tackles. New Zealand also won the penalty count 8-5, and there was also 11 set restarts. So 13 penalties and 11 set restarts. The referee had a lot of impact in that game. Warriors come into this one off the bye, so 15 days rest, and have lost their last 2 games prior to the bye by double digits against the Broncos and Panthers. Similar to the Bulldogs, who've lost against both of those teams. They've also lost both games off the bye this season, double digits, but those games were against the Storm and the Panthers. Tigers, going over to them, they broke a 6-game losing streak by beating the Roosters on Sunday. 7-day turnaround for them, so it's not a short turnaround against a team off the bye, so they're okay from that perspective. They've also made it back-to-back wins on 2 occasions this season. They've only won a total of 6 games, but previously, when you go back earlier this season, they won in round 2, beating the Eels, and then backed that up with a win over the Dolphins by 12 points. Beat the Knights in round 6, but then lost to the Eels the following week. And then in round 8, they beat the Sharks by 2 and backed it up with a win over the Dragons by 6 points. The only thing with that is the teams that they beat the following week were all ranked outside the top 8 going to that game, where Warriors, one of the top sides this year, they've had a little bit of a slip up lately, but get the opportunity to reset off the bye at home here against a side that they've got a really good record against. The one thing I do think is I can see this game being close. Tigers get Jerome Luai back and also Coruscant back in the team, which the fact they beat the Roosters last week without those 2 players in the team is hugely positive signs for them. We'll see how the Roosters go earlier in the round, so we'll get a bit of a guideline of them following that performance. But I think the Tigers can keep this game close. If this line definitely keeps creeping out well into the double digits, I like the Tigers with the plus. I think Warriors probably will win the game, but it'll be a close one. Just overall on the season, Warriors have definitely been the stronger side and get the opportunity to just get back, get a win, and get some momentum heading towards the end of the year with this matchup. But definitely wouldn't be surprised for the Tigers to keep it close. The total is 46.5. Do think that is a little bit high, and make a fair total for this game, about 43 points. Warriors, there's no total trends for them for this game. Warriors, 3 of their last 4 games have gone over the total. Tigers, 3 of their last 4 have gone under. So lean slightly towards the unders here, but not a super strong play for me from that perspective. But I think it'll definitely close. Like the Tigers are leading into this game. Their last 9 games, 7 of those have been decided by 10 points or less. The only exceptions, the 64-0 loss against the Storm back in round 10, and in round 17 they lost to the Seagulls 28 points to 10, but definitely a stronger lineup this time around. They've had 4 of their past 5 games be decided by 4 points or less, so they're one of those teams that's really loving the close games at the moment. And the Warriors, a majority of their games this season have all been by small margins, both wins and losses as well. So I think, this game does set up nicely to be a close matchup. Then we have the Eels against the Panthers. Penrith are favourites, $1.30, minus 10.5, and the total is 45.5. The Panthers have won the last 3 straight against the Eels, 18-10 earlier this season in round 13, so really not that long ago. Then 36-34 late last year, and then 26-18 earlier last season. Last time the Eels beat them was round 26 in 2023, 32 points to 18. The past 5 meetings between these two have all been decided by 14 or less. The meeting earlier this year where the Panthers won by 8. It was a real low-scoring game. Each team just scored the 1 try in the first half. Panthers led 6-4 at halftime. The Eels hit the front early in the second half through a Josh Adokar try, and then the Panthers scored the final 2 tries to win by 8 points. That game, Nathan Cleary and Mitch Moses both played in that matchup. It was even possession. Panthers had 86% completion rate, Eels at 81%, so both over the 80%. Line breaks 4 each. Panthers missed 7 more tackles. Panthers had 13-4 attacking kicks, did majority of the attacking play. Panthers 12 errors, Eels only made 9, and the Eels led the penalty count 7-4. Panthers won the game and potentially should have won by a little bit more when you look at the numbers, dominating the attack. But the Eels defense definitely stepped up, which is not something you could say for majority of the season. They're currently ranked 15th in points conceded, and they kept the Panthers to just the one try in the first half, and they're ranked 16th defensively in first halves this season. The Eels are coming off the bye after losing to the Dragons by 14 points. They've had 15 days rest coming in. And the Panthers, they're also off the bye and have won 4 straight. All 4 of those wins, though, by 10 points or less. 2 against the Bulldogs, 10 against the Warriors, 4 against the Tigers, and 8 against the Eels back in round 13. Those are their last 4 games. And really feel Penrith building towards the end of the season. All Origin players should back up for this game. And I really don't see Penrith dropping this. I just think defensively, they're really dialed in right now. They haven't conceded over 18 points across those last 4 games. They kept the Bulldogs to 6 points. They kept the Tigers to 14, Eels to 10, Warriors to 18. Now, majority of those teams, like outside the Bulldogs, are all below average attacking sides. So there is the chance against better attacking side, they may give up a few more points, but once again, the Eels are ranked 15th in attack, just like they are defensively, and I don't think they'll find enough points. I think Penrith might have learned a little bit from that last meeting, and will have a few different approaches in attack to find some more points, and their defense will be able to shut down the Eels once again. So I like Panthers to win. Don't want to lay the 10.5 points. If you watch my videos, you know that it's only very rare occasions where I'll lay handicaps that are over a converted try. As we've seen, especially this season, a lot of teams who are trailing by 2, 3, 4 tries coming back and making it a 1-score game late. So you just got to be very cautious and picky of those situations. The total is 45.5. 3 of the past 4 head-to-head have gone over the total. Last time they met, it was 47.5, and really not that long ago. 2-point movement here, just due to the fact there was only 28 points scored in that game. Panthers, 4 of their last 5 have gone under, whereas the Eels, their last 4 have gone under. Right now, with the current number, I think it's 1 to 2 points too high, so a slight lean towards the under, particularly due to the fact I think the Eels will struggle to score, so I'd potentially look at their team total going under as the option. And then the final game of the round, the Titans at home against the Broncos, and Brisbane are favourites, $1.30 minus 10.5, and the total is 49.5. The Titans have won and covered 3 of the past 4 versus Brisbane. However, when they met in round 14, so very recently, the Broncos won 44 points to 14, and that was the game that kick-started the Broncos' win streak. They'd lost by 28 to the Seagulls the week prior, then came out, scored on the first set of 6 against the Titans in that game. Went on to add 4 more tries in the first half and led 28-0 at halftime. And then both teams scored 3 tries each in the second half, but Broncos were well and truly in front. Shibasaki, Karapani, Reece Walsh, and Cam Pereira all got doubles, so all got 2 tries in that matchup. So there's some potential try scorer options as well for this game, particularly on that left edge. Shibasaki should back up, and Broncos have been having a lot of success down that left-hand side of the field recently. So we'll get to that when we go through the try scorer video later in the week. But the Broncos had 51% possession, so not a great differential. And Titans actually completed better at 83% compared to the Broncos at 79%. Broncos 9-3 line breaks. The Gold Coast Titans missed 39 tackles. They only made 9 errors and the Broncos made 13. But when you're doing like better attacking play, you can afford more errors. What you don't want is high errors and low points, and that becoming a consistent pattern. That's where it becomes an issue, which is what we saw with Newcastle earlier on in the season. They're making 15, 16 errors every game and only scoring around 10 points. The Broncos had 3 set restarts to 2, but the Titans led the penalty count 6-5, so very little difference between the two of them. Broncos, their recent form has been really good. Obviously, they come from behind win against the Bulldogs last week, win against the Warriors, who came back, and then Broncos got away from them late, and then they came from behind to beat the Sharks. Their last 3 weeks. Their last 3 games as well have all been against teams ranked 5th or above on the ladder going into that game. So the form definitely is strong. Titans, they're off the bye with 14 days rest. They've lost 10 of their last 12 games, have also only covered in 3 of those 12, and they've been an underdog in virtually all of them. Just a favourite twice against the Eels in round 16 and back in round 5 against the Dolphins. So they were their only ones where when you lose, you're definitely not going to cover, but every other game of those 12, they've been the underdog. Titans also have trailed at halftime in 7 of their past 8 games. If Broncos hold their form, they'll win this game. Titans defense definitely isn't strong enough to be able to stop them. They're basically giving up 28 points in 5 of their last 6 games, and majority of games during this streak of 12 games, they've conceded 30 plus, which is why they're averaging over 30 points conceded. Broncos, their attack is going well. They have started to drop down in their point scores. So they got 44 against the Titans, 34 against the Sharks, 26 against the Warriors, then 22 against the Bulldogs. However, that's in alignment with better defenses as well. Titans, the worst defensively, Sharks next worst, Warriors next worst, and then Bulldogs the best of that run. So the trend in them struggling to score or scoring less against each opponent has coincided with that exactly. I think they'll get back on track. They'll score 30 plus here against the Titans and win this game. The total is 49.5. 10 of the past 13 head-to-head have gone over. When they met in Brisbane, the total is 51.5 a few weeks ago. Make a fair total for this game, 49.5. So I think the number is spot on. The Titans, 3 of their past 4 games have gone over. Broncos, their last 2 have gone under, but it's been a fairly even pattern throughout the season for them in terms of games going over under. Expect this game be on the higher scoring side. I think it'll go close to going over. If it goes under, I can't see it being less than 40 points, that's for sure. So if you're backing the over, it should go very close, if not going over the total. So that's my early look at the games. Every bet that I place, I share in the NRL best bets, which you can view through the link in the description, plus get access to all the bet finders, study the try scorers, and use the tools to understand where teams' strengths and weaknesses are by different situations as well, with all the different splits for the team. So definitely check that out. Now, on to State of Origin. Currently, New South Wales are $1.38 favourites. They've come in a little bit this morning. They've been hovering around the $1.40, $1.42 mark for most of the lead up to this game, but it looks like a little bit of money's come for them and they've gone in a little bit shorter. They're -8.5, and the total for this game is 42.5 points. Going back to game 1 this season, New South Wales won at Suncorp 18 points to 6. They scored 4 tries to 1. No conversions were made in the game. A couple of penalty goals. Brian Tiles sin bin. The Queensland side scored their 1 try during that period of the game. New South Wales leading 14-2 at halftime. The stats for that game: Blues had 53% possession, completed 83%. Queensland only 78%. About 330 extra run meters for New South Wales, 120 extra post contact, and 4-1 line breaks. And New South Wales had 49 tackle breaks, so almost 50 missed tackles for Queensland. Then going into, or just should mention as well, 15-7 offloads as well for that game, and penalties conceded. New South Wales won the penalty count 9-6. They also had 4 set restarts to 2 in their favour as well. Now, in Game 2, it's a bit of a different story. It's played in the rain over in Perth. Queensland winning 26-24. They scored all 4 of their tries in the first half, so it led 26-6 at halftime after New South Wales scored the first try of the game. That means that Queensland were held scoreless in the second half. New South Wales ran in 4 tries. However, only 1 of those tries were converted. So had they been able to convert 1, if not 2 of those 4 tries, they win or at least tie this game and send it into golden point. However, Lomax, who was kicking that game, which last I saw, he is expected to take the goal kicking for New South Wales here as well. The stats for this game: New South Wales 55% possession. Again, both teams completed poorly due to the conditions. New South Wales a little bit extra run meters, about 150 or so extra, 130 extra post contact, line breaks 3 each. Both teams broke and missed around the 30 tackle mark. Offloads fairly low at 5 each. Penalties for this game 10-2 in favour of Queensland, and set restarts 6-2 in favour of New South Wales. So as we're seeing, the team that's won the penalty count has also won both games so far. The game 3 changes for the lineups. So Queensland bring Hamiso Tabuai to fullback with Kalen Ponga out of the side, and that means that Shibasaki comes in for the Broncos for his State of Origin debut. So that means Robert Toya and Hamit Shibasaki both in their first Origin series, so expect Stephen Crichton and Latrell Mitchell to look to target that. They haven't really been dominant so far this season. This potentially could be the game. There's no lineup changes for the starting 17 for New South Wales. The other change for Queensland is Mo Fotuaika out and Josh Papali'i in for Queensland, returning to Origin. Still looking at these lineups, on paper, New South Wales is still the stronger overall team, and definitely with them being at home should be favourite. And also, like, when you look at how Game 1 and Game 2 have been played, New South Wales 4 tries to 1 in Game 1 and then 5 tries to 4 in game number 2, and they kept Queensland scoreless in the second half once they got themselves sorted, as they didn't come out to play in that first half. And there's also the barrage of penalties as well, which is well documented in the media. For me personally, I think New South Wales win this game at home. There is the Queensland underdog and the Cameron Munster factor that definitely you can see there's ways Queensland can get up and win this game. And historically, deciders have been close. The last 4 Origin deciders have all been by 10 points or less, and the last 3 at Accor Stadium have been decided by 6 or less. Just talking about decider matches. Nathan Cleary is yet to win an Origin decider, so he gets another opportunity to do that. I think he's had 3 attempts so far. New South Wales have won 4 of their last 6 meetings at Accor. Their last 2 games against Queensland there have been 14 plus margins. New South Wales have won the series after winning Game 1 on 3 of the last 4 occasions. New South Wales also have been strong in first, which is really important after the way Queensland started that first half in Game 2. I think New South Wales will clean that up and really look to avoid giving away penalties to start this game. And historically, this is probably an important one in terms of the Queensland underdog factor. The Maroons have won 9 of the last 11 deciders, including 2 of the last 3 that were played in Sydney. So, like, home field advantage potentially doesn't matter a great deal, but I think New South Wales get over the line and win this game. Don't want to lay the points, so I'll be looking at ways to play them. I'll be posting that in the members area through the link in the description. But like, I'm leaning towards Blues to win. Personally, I don't really have any allegiance towards either side, as I've spoken about in other videos. View State of Origin just as a good game with the best of players going against each other. The total is 42.5 for this game. There are some strong trends towards the under. 14 of the last 16 head-to-head at Accor Stadium have gone under the 42.5 point total. 8 of the last 9 game 3s have gone under the 42.5 point total, and 4 of the last 5 deciders have gone under 42.5. So there's lots of strong trends there. This series has been pretty high scoring. When you look, 50 points last game, 24 in this game, but all the conversions were missed. So there was at least 10 more points left on the table, which gives it a 34-point scoreline. But with this matchup, I'd be leaning towards the unders. The first try as well has been scored after the 8-minute mark in 7 of the last 8 deciders. And these kind of games, like, teams don't want to lose the game in the first 20 minutes. Like, effectively, Game 2, New South Wales lost that game in the first 20 minutes. So they won't want to make a similar mistake in this game. So, like the Blues to win, I think they'll win by the 6 to 10 point range. So I'll be leaning towards them at the 1 to 12 and around that $3 mark, and it to be a low-scoring game. And that's how I'm looking at approaching the State of Origin. I'm posting an additional preview in the members area as well, like I do for every game throughout the season. Thanks, guys, for watching. Good luck with all your bets, and stay tuned for the try scorer video that's coming before the game on Friday.